Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tuesday, May 24th, Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen Sewer Commission meeting. If anyone has cell phones, electronic devices, so they turn off or in a mute position is not to disturb the meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Chair, all selectmen are present, as is the town administrator, Mr. Andrews.
And we'll go where we left off yesterday, since this is a continuation. What I would like to do, if I can have a motion from the floor, and it has to be, we voted on this yesterday, and the only one that can bring up the motion is the people in the affirmative. So I'm requesting that one of the four can bring it up so we can revisit this.
The agreement.
The agreement?
The agreement.
I will make a motion to revisit the agreement
Motion made.
for discussion.
Second,
Second
for discussion.
for discussion.
We have to cut that back.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Snyder, second by Mrs. Bailey. For discussion, does everybody have a copy? I guess I'm the only one without one, but I can look right. Okay, the wording was changed from yesterday, and technically, it is and it isn't a document, and it's binding. It's going to be on all of us to uphold our best, try to work together as a team. So, with that, I'll let the discussion begin.
We started on this side last time, so.
Okay. Start on Steve's end.
Well, Mr. Chair, to me, I didn't really have an issue with the document, so a new document doesn't change my mind. The Director of Accounts for the Massachusetts State Department of Revenue has advised us not to do this. I consider this to be fiscally irresponsible. My mind hasn't changed yesterday since we changed the word on the document. So I think there's got to be a better way to do this. You know, I would even consider, although I would really have to think about it, I would consider taking this money, putting it into some kind of stabilization account so that it can't be spent without all these people voting for it. But I'm not in favor of taking this money and using it for operations, so my mind hasn't changed.
Mr. Snyder?
First, let me just, I'm a little bit confused. I'm not aware of any recommendation, Mr. Holmes.
I called him.
You called him.
You
Is
want
that it?
Mr. Chair, if I may respond to Mr.
Right, I was
Schneider.
going to ask, do you want me to?
Yeah, he sent us a letter back, I think it was on April, I don't know, it's beginning of April, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. And I called and introduced myself and had a discussion with the man. So, that's my response.
Do you want, I can comment on that? Okay, I've heard from 4 different people. They all went to the DOR. To get something in writing is one thing. They had 50 other towns that were in the same position that we are. What happened is they depleted their trust fund. All they're doing is getting one.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, my issue is not beyond anything other than, right at the moment, that I wasn't aware that a vote was taken by this board in relation to anyone going to the Director of Accounts for the Department of Revenue.
And there wasn't any agreement for anyone to go to the Department of Revenue. Everyone went on their own. Board of Finance, FinCom, members went, 2 members went there. Mr. Holmes said he went.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, through you, I never said I went. The man sent us an email. I responded to his email, and he said, call me, so I called him. That's all.
Okay, so you were in touch with him?
I didn't go there.
Right, you were in touch with them, right.
Okay.
Okay. So what's before us now is, are we going to go with this, read it, let's debate on it, and then we can take a vote. Because I think this is a good thing for the town, to get us moving in the right direction. We have to start somewhere, and this is a good way to start. We're partners with the school committee, and they're going to have to tighten their belts just like we have to tighten our belts. And if we don't do something, that means we have to come up with $500,000 of cuts on our side, and they have to come up with close to $1 million. And this is just for a year, and after this, well, starting as soon as we pass this or not, we have to do something right from the beginning. If we pass this, this is just a Band-Aid on it, and we all need to get together, Selectmen and the school committee, to work as a team to see how we're going to rectify what's happening. So with that, we'll turn it back to Mr. Snyder.
Mr. Cruz, through you to my fellow board members, I understand your point, and it is well taken. But I'm also aware that this document is really in relation to bridging a $2.7 million gap with respect to the school's budget, and it's adding an additional layer of management. That said, I would be willing to make a motion to execute this document subject to the approval of town meeting vote.
Sounds good to me. Because this is just to make sure that we're on the same page so we can present it to the finance. So we can, Mrs. Bagley?
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. I absolutely understand what people see as a necessity to have a premium holiday. I had some conversations with some school committee members and said to them that this would be a one-time issue, so that in my mind, and this is what I have every intentions of discussing on town meeting floor, that next year's budget is artificially inflated as a result of using this money. I do have a couple of questions to Mr. Holmes through you, Mr. Chair. I did see that Mr. Holmes posted on just about every blog that exists in Wareham. I find that unfortunate, because the discussions should be here. This is televised. The discussions should be here amongst the board.
Let's stick, Ellen,
Okay.
hold it.
All right.
Point of order.
All right.
No, point of order. We're going to stick to the subject. This is not about...
This is related to the subject, Mr.
Okay.
Cruz. But however, that said, I think that this is up to the body.
It is.
So should the body decide against this, do we have a plan B? That's my question.
Well, for that, we'll have to talk to Mr. Andrews, because since that's his budget that we were voting on, and we'll need to know. If not, that means, like I said earlier, it's $1 million on the school side and $500,000 on our side. It's predicated on us working with this. And this is just to show solidarity between us and the school, that everybody's in agreement.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the board, the Plan B that I know of would have to go back through the lines and make cuts through personnel lines at this particular juncture. And I'm not sure the exact amount of personnel, but we'd have to go back and look at each of the departments and make some, what I believe to be draconian cuts. Not on the town side, I can't speak for the school district, but I do just want to mention that in the agreement, the last line on the first paragraph, the second paragraph, the first line, says this agreement shall be effective upon the vote of town meeting. And I think that's what the chairman was committed to doing to get, to make sure, to Selectman Schneider's point, that we had the body decide the direction. You know, once again, I'll just point out for the record, our independent auditors who have done, you know, a lot of work in this area. In fact, they did our healthcare trust fund audit back a year plus ago. And so their record, their draft indicates that there's a healthy surplus. And it's up to this board and the body to decide how best to, you know, proceed with that. A plan B would definitely cut into personnel and building some departments, you know, right across the board. It would take some serious cuts on the town side that I know will affect town services. And that's my opinion, and that's what I think the chairman asked me to just comment on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Windsor? Oh, are you,
I
sorry.
just said one more thing.
Okay.
Just one more thing, Mr. Cruz. Did the school committee vote on this? And do you know, if so, what were the results of that vote?
As far as I know, they haven't, but as soon as we sign, they're going to talk to those people tonight, and they're going to be in agreement. As far as they know right now, they're in agreement. They wanted us to sign it to make sure that we were on board also. So they're probably in the same predicament we are right now. Everyone's waiting on us. Finance is waiting on us.
Well, Mr. Cruz, it would be, they really wouldn't be able to take a vote tonight since it wouldn't be a posted meeting. I mean, that's just my, when I saw that Chairman Fonce and you had signed this document, I guess I had falsely assumed that the school committee had already discussed this in an open meeting and had voted on this.
They had they had a meeting last Wednesday, and I think they have one coming up. I don't know what's their schedule, but usually theirs is on a Wednesday evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first comment I want to make is that I fully support what you and the chairman of the school committee, Mr. Fonce, are attempting to do in bringing the two boards together for the better of the community as a whole. I also fully support the school district, and my feelings on this matter are not indicative of any non-support for the schools, for the town, or for your efforts. My concern is that the draconian cuts are coming, whether they come this year or next year, or if we're lucky enough to come up with $1.5 million next year, the following year, they're coming. And at some point, we have got to be realistic about what we're facing. And we have to sit back and look at the services we're delivering, how they're delivered, and how to make it more cost efficient. We do not have any control over the school budget. It is a one-line item budget. If the schools have $10 million and they decide to pay one person $9.9, then they have to educate the kids for $100,000, and we have no say. That's the law. That's how it works. We have got to sit down and have an open, honest, difficult conversation between ourselves, the school committee, the finance committee, and quite frankly, the community about how we're going to go forward. Towns all around us are cutting, and we're spending. And now we're we're proposing to dip into a healthcare trust fund. It's not the purpose of the healthcare trust fund. And I just can't support this idea. I also spoke with the DOR after we got that letter, and I was told the same thing that Mr. Holmes was told. And I have to believe that people who are in those positions know more about this stuff than I do. I am sorry, Mr. Chair. I know this is important to you, and I do support your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not only important to me, but it's important to the town. We need to show solidarity between the two boards. We need to start working together. This didn't happen overnight, but it's in our lap. We own it. Whatever happened. The deficit we got was caused years ago, and it's still continuing. So now's the time. Everybody knows the belt is being tightened. So now we have to tighten our belts, get together as a unit, and see where we're going to cut and how we're going to make it. We have to be proactive in business so we can draw people in, so we can have a better revenue coming in. So with that, we'll have one. Go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I have a question. It puzzles me that this document, I won't use the same words as my colleague, Mr. Schneider, last night, but this document, it really means nothing to me. The Board of Selectmen, neither the Board of Selectmen or the school committee can authorize this. This has to be authorized by a vote of town meeting, correct?
That's what it says on the
Is that
last
not correct?
paragraph.
I understand
Correct.
that.
This
So
is
why-
just to show, excuse me, this is just to show solidarity between the two of us, that we're agreeing on this, the school committee and the selectmen. When it goes before the town, they can vote it down.
Correct. That's my point.
Right.
So why would we sign an agreement that means nothing?
And if-
I understand
if
the
it-
solidarity
if it
part.
means, if it doesn't mean anything, then why not sign it? Let's look at it both
Right.
ways. Why not sign it? It's showing solidarity between the two of us. We're on the same page.
I agree with the solidarity part. However, I just think that we picked the wrong subject to start with.
Well, the
I
subject-
just can't, goes deeper than solidarity. I mean, I had my coffee with Mr. Sylvia, as you asked us to do, but I think this is more than just solidarity, Mr. Chairman. This is a very important issue that needs to be dealt with. And I won't go into the reports I saw today on TV and yesterday, but this is just, I just don't agree with this. So
Okay.
that's my problem.
Your point is well made.
Thank you.
Okay. If there is any rebuttal, we just,
I would just like to, I'm aware of a letter that the town received in 2009, and I believe that the town administrator has. Mr. Andrews, do you have that letter with you? Just because there is confusion around the issue of the legality of using it, or the opinion of the Mass Department of Revenue. And I know that the town administrator does have a letter in his possession which states that the town may use those funds. So I just want to be I want to be sure on this particular issue. A conversation over the telephone to me is very different than a letter received from the Department of Revenue. That's my feeling on that issue.
Mr. Chair.
excuse me, Mr. Snyder has the floor.
And as I stated previously, you know, I don't think any of us, you know, are thrilled with the fact that we're sitting here making a determination, you know, on whether or not we can afford to, you know, we live in a town where every dollar counts, and that's obvious. It counts on both the town side and the school side. The school side is just another department of the town, in essence. So we are one, and I would restate my motion. You know, I would make a motion to execute this agreement upon approval of town meeting.
Mr. Chair, if I could just, I think,
Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Schneider. It was very clear in my conversation with the Department of Revenue that it is absolutely legal to do this, that there is no gray area, that this is our money to do with as we wish.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Winslow. Could you just restate that? Legal or illegal?
Legal.
Okay.
The issue isn't, the question or the opinion was not the subject of the legality. It was simply an opinion from somebody who's done this for a long time and who works with however many communities they work with, I don't know. And I'm not questioning the legality of it. I don't think that there's confusion about whether it's legal or not. I think, I just don't think it's a good idea. I also think it's a bad precedent as a whole to start using funds such as this to plug deficits. That's what this is. It's a deficit. But it's a deficit that's existed, as Mr. Cruz said, for a long time, and we've been lucky. We've been able to cover it, whether it was, you know, we got rid of the school debt, and then we had a little extra money one year, you had EduJobs money. But that's all going to stop at some point, and the end of that road is coming, and we're at the edge of the cliff here. And we've really got to make some difficult decisions about moving forward, and I don't want to make them any more than anybody else wants to make them. And I don't want to sit here as a parent, sit at home wondering about class sizes with 50 kids. None of us want those things. But continuing to plug the gap or using these stopgap measures isn't going to help us in the long run. And we've got to start working on fiscal policy for the future so that we don't end up in these situations.
Yeah, Mr. Cruz, through you. I think I've made my opinion clear on the fact that I don't think that, using the use of, one-time funds is the best approach to any situation, particularly when we don't know what next year's bringing. My issue is, again, there is a number of comments, telephone conversations are hearsay. The same thing happened on the Finance Committee, as I understand it. Okay, and whether, you can sit here and tell me, and it's certainly not that I don't believe you, Mrs. Winslow, but you can sit here and tell me that the DOR says that it's not good policy, but without a document that says so, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference, especially when we have a document that says that we may use the funds. It doesn't say whether it's good policy or it isn't good policy. Again, I agree with you for the most part, and my issue was with the document itself, and I guess my motion stands. It's pretty clear in the document what the document says.
Okay, if there's no, we'll go ahead and take a vote on this. We had a second. There was a second. Right. Snyder, Mr. Snyder made the motion. Mrs. Bagley made the second. All in favor of signing it? Aye. Say aye. All opposed?
Just to be clear, my motion is to sign it subject to execute subject.
Right, it says right on the last
Aye.
sentence, the agreement shall be effective upon the vote of town meeting. It shall be enforced for the fiscal year 2012.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, then I would be confused. Mr. Schneider, are you suggesting that we ask the people about this document? Or are you saying if they approve the budget?
Mr. Holmes, as you said yesterday, it's going to invoke, a little over a half hour will be a town meeting.
But they're not going to see this document.
No, they're not.
They'll see the budget.
On the document.
We're going to have a vote on the budget.
The budget.
Budget,
then
right.
you'll sign this.
Correct.
Okay. So it's the budget that they need to vote.
All opposed?
Aye.
2, 3, 2, 0. Now we'll go into town administrator's report, and we have 25 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be very expeditious here. I just want, under leadership team, update the board that we have been moving forward with the filling of the position of Director of Assessment last Friday. Subcommittee met to review candidates, including the Chairman of this Board of Assessors and Mr. Andy Williams from the Building Department. They held 6 interviews during that time frame, and I think they're going to be wrapping up their interviews this week. I'll keep the board posted on progress of this matter. Second item I'd like to bring up to the board is that we attended a grant award ceremony in connection with the police department at AD Makepeace. Grant award of $2,500 was made to the town police and health departments. There's an attached award letter, and I am proud to say that I was there with Chairman Cruz and Selectman Begley. That was held on May 12th, and we had, and also our moderator, Claire Smith, was there on a separate matter, but participated in the event itself. The second item, we wanted to update the board. I'm very concerned, as I've indicated, about summer jobs programs for summer youth. And I reached out to Mr. Len Coriati, who's the Executive Director of the Greater New Bedford Workforce Investment Board. The Workforce Investment Board is the entity by which federal and state funds funnel through to support summer youth programs. I've been working very closely with Barbara Sullivan from the Boys and Girls Club to find ways to discuss ways we can expand upon summer youth programs and workforce development and employment training for our youth this summer. We have formed a working group to share information on summer job opportunities, and that was one of the major tenets of the Wareham Works Economic Summit that we held back on March 26th, I believe. Just wanted to report in concert with item number 1, we had a very solid hazardous waste drop-off day. We actually doubled the amount of hazardous waste. I'm not sure how they weigh it, but the Director of Municipal Maintenance informed me that the hazardous waste materials were double this year. It was a huge success. And going forward, I think that's one way to make sure that we can protect the environment and allow individuals and families to drop off whatever hazardous materials that they have in their basements or in their garages. On Monday, May 9th, I just wanted to update the board that I attended a regional meeting at the Holiday Inn Taunton Conference Center where Secretary Greg Bielecki, Secretary of Massachusetts Economic Affairs for the Commonwealth, discussed various economic programs, including new business alliances throughout the region, and he also opened up ways to suggest that we improve our local economy. Very well versed on it. He also indicated that he's working on a number of programs to create jobs in the region, and took a great question and answer period to give the individuals participating great information back. Attached, if you would find enclosed, the monthly crime report, activity report for the Wareham Police Department for April 2011. And I'm sure the chief can update you on that. He's in attendance if need be. Item number 6, and this is something that's been brewing for some time, but I think it was important to let our feelings be known to the governor. In speaking with our local legislative delegation, there's a letter of support for maintaining Taunton State Hospital that has been, I believe it's in the signature listing. Last page. And just to put it, one of the major things that I think when, and there's any type of consolidation at the state level, that we really have to pay attention to how our residents, individuals that are in need of services, if Taunton State Hospital closes, how they would get to the city of Worcester from the town of Wareham. And for this issue and a number of others, it's a very difficult process to get out there. The Taunton State Hospital provides a number of critical services to the residents of Wareham, continues to be a key services provider in the field of mental health programs throughout the region and to the town of Wareham. And I drafted a letter on behalf of the board. If you're so inclined, please sign it, because I think we need to weigh in. I'm not sure this is going to come up when the Senate debates its budget coming up, but the idea would be to make certain that we weigh in on our perspective relative to Taunton State Hospital and the regional impact that it would have on services. If I could turn to...
Make a motion that the board sign the letter of support. Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank
5-0-0.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Just an update on Cranberry Commons. We continue to work with Peter Ferry and his development team on Cranberry Commons. And I'm working with Barbara Sullivan on the model recreation program. Once again, no new hires, no new program dollars, but just to try to find some ways to increase recreation, working with Barbara and her staff at the Boys and Girls Club. Business certificates, Mary Ann Silver and Miles Burke are working on software to ensure that we do have compliance with our business certificates. On the land donation review task force, I know David Bichette, our conservation administrator, is working hard with a family to see if we can get bank financing for the family to do some of the environmental testing that needs to be done. We've already gone over the budget, and I believe some of the biggest safety issues have already been addressed by our Director of Municipal Maintenance, and the Municipal Maintenance Department will continue to work with the school district on that. And I know you, Mr. Chairman, have championed the cooperation and update with the school committee entitled Together We Will Work as One Unit. I know that has been one of the main programs you've been working on. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Any questions from the board? If not, I'd like to, town business, the budget was already discussed, unless someone wants to go over it. If not, we have the Wareham Police Department policies and procedures. Do we have something?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry.
I don't bite.
No, it's okay. I have trouble hearing.
So do I. That's why I sit on this side, I can't handle it.
Now, is this pertaining to the police budget? I mean,
Policies, yes.
Okay, so it is policy and procedure.
He doesn't want to sit next to me.
No, I thought you would want to discuss something else.
Oh, no,
I started
policies.
to mention it, and you interrupted, so I thought you...
Oh,
were-
I can't, because I can't hear out of this ear. I thought
Okay.
you were on that, I'm sorry.
Okay, we're on the police department and policy procedures.
Yes.
So the chief will come up, and if we have any questions, we can address it then. Have a chair?
Bill, come on, Bill.
You want to sit next to me, Bill? Jeez.
Who's going to be
Okay.
first? And then we can start right from the beginning if you want to work right from the beginning, unless they have questions on certain policies.
Back in 1955, no, that's when I was born, that's okay. We're in a position right now where we've put 11 policies and procedures before the Board of Selectmen. If, in fact, the board decides to approve these 11, we will be at a total of 119, or 71% actual completed, ready for the accreditation process. It takes 167 to reach the accreditation process, so we're getting there. I can't say enough of the work ethic put forth by Bill Philman. He's been a one-man show working in concert with my division commanders as well as the union. The support from everybody has been tremendous. We've been working on a bunch of issues right now, and these have been kind of sitting for a while. I know you've been busy as well with the change in the board and the town meeting and so forth. So we'd like to get this moved forward if we could and take us that one step further. These 11 make it 71% complete.
Any questions for any part of the policy that we need to address? We can start right from, we'll start. You want to start from that end? We're starting from that end and work this way. Mr. Holmes?
All set.
Snyder? Go ahead.
I just have a comment. I read through the policies. It's the first time I've actually I've actually seen some of the policies that have been drafted by the Wareham Police Department, and I thought that they were fantastic, well written, and I certainly appreciate the efforts of Officer Philman and the chief, and I look forward. I'm glad that we're nearing the accreditation of the police department.
Thank you.
I too read them. I'm a nurse, and policies are kind of drive what I do as well. They were extremely well written, and they're fair. They're fair to the officers, knowing, giving them boundaries and guidance. So that's part of our accreditation in hospitals is where's your policy and procedure book and where's the disaster manual. So I absolutely appreciate the fact. Now, my question is this. When you started, how many policies actually existed in the department?
There were some, but they were extremely outdated.
and Bill could probably give you an idea of exactly how outdated they were. But again, we are, just so you know, because I know you're new to the board, but we became certified, and now we're on to accreditation, so it's been a rapid pace. I don't know how many.
We had, I can't tell you the exact number, but I can tell you that they were very outdated, and they weren't up to speed with today's way of doing policing. These policies and procedures are designed to give us credibility and accountability. That's the major focus of these. For all of us, it's a win situation for the police department, the members, and the town. You have less chances of being subject to any liability or any types of bad things like that. Most of our policies were dated back in the 80s, so they hadn't been touched to a very certain degree up until last year. They were all pretty much rewritten to meet today's standards of doing police work.
I just have another question. For us, we have to do, in medicine, they have to be annually, what's the word I'm looking for?
Reviewed?
Reviewed, thank you. They have to be reviewed annually. Is that something that you have to do for accreditation?
Yes, it absolutely is. It's a constant improvement process by way of review. The experts, so to speak, in different fields say, we have like armorers would review the use of force policy. Our operations commander would review our pursuit policy. So we have a gamut of people, experts, so to speak, that are assigned to a particular policy, and they're responsible for the review.
And just to follow up on that, I serve on the Massachusetts Police Accreditation Commission. There are 6 police chiefs, well, actually 4 police chiefs, a town manager, and a couple of other people from the Commonwealth. Anyone who's accredited or certified have to go back after 3 years and get it recertified and re-inspected. So shame on you if you allow it to drift back, because the work to catch up is a tremendous undertaking. So you have to really keep up with things.
What's the mechanism for writing the policies? Do you go to other, is there a standard, like a national standard, then a state standard, what's the mechanism for even writing them?
There are standards, and in each policy you have to meet certain standards. So even though we have policies here, we have to hit so many points in each policy that are requirements. So they're not just haphazardly written. When the inspection board comes in and puts them down, they have to look to see if you hit all the points you're supposed to hit. And again, these were created by police professionals for police professionals.
Thank you.
I might just add one thing. As you were reviewing the policies, you probably noticed there's these little numbers in parentheses.
Yes.
And those are the actual standard that you have to address in addition to all the additional information in the policy.
Thank you.
Mrs. Rizzo, mic is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Officer Philman, as usual, you've done a fine job. I do have an issue with one of the policies, though, and I would like to ask that we vote on all the policies but the social media policy. I did start researching the policy. There's some things in there that concern me, especially what people might do on their off-duty conduct that is mentioned in the policy. And I just want to make sure that I'm just not totally comfortable with that one policy. It's new, social media is new, and
Mr. Chair, through you to Ms. Winslow, what was the number?
SM1,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
S as in Sam, M as in Mary, 1.
1. Thank you.
You're welcome. Chief?
Chief, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, these were written and approved by the state and they're very important. Could I ask you what the exact problem is and where it is so I can address it?
My biggest issue comes with as far as all the official stuff goes, that's fine. You know, official websites, creating fan pages and things like that, I don't have an issue with that. My issue comes with people's personal social media. So, and I'll use this as an example. Last summer, we did our first national night out, and I took a lot of pictures of the things that went on there, the fire department, the dogs, the canines, some of the other things. And I posted those on my personal Facebook page, and people shared those with other people, including the subjects of some of those photos. According to this policy, that photograph that I posted would identify somebody as a department employee, and they may be subject to some type of discipline or conduct unbecoming. And my concern, so starting with the part that says personal social media is where I have the issues.
You're not a police officer, and what you do doesn't fall under the rules and regulations and policies and procedures of the police department. Police officers are held to a higher standard. They're required by the police department to conduct themselves like that on a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week period. And we, as officials within the police department, and you, as elected officials, should expect the same thing. The issues that take place on social media when police officers go out and take photographs themselves wearing the police uniform in different states is, in fact, a concern on the part of management and should be a concern on the part of the town. What they do, by their own volition and by own willingness, they are responsible for. What you do, you are not responsible for. If you take a picture of a police officer at a social event, obviously that doesn't come in to a problem. If they're wearing a uniform in a sanctioned event, that's not a problem. But when they take pictures that are immoral or are in fact problems from the point of view of the police department, that's a problem, okay? Those were written and approved by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts based on national standards where we hold police officers responsible for their actions.
It clearly says in this policy that if a police officer posts a picture of themselves in a uniform, and some of the officers that I photographed, those photos were shared with, and that means that they landed somewhere on their Facebook pages, that they can be charged with conduct unbecoming. And that's where my concern is. My concern is that you come into this technical loophole, and I don't want to, and I'm not suggesting that you would, but there's going to be people after you, and these policies are going to be in place for a long time, and I want to make sure that we're careful. I agree. Police officers shouldn't be on the Strip in Las Vegas wearing I understand all that, but at the same time, I think we need to define a little bit more what that is, because I would be very concerned about, especially the public events, where they're out, and people do share their pictures with them, and once they share them or tag them in a photo, that photo is on their page. They can't help that.
I had the privilege of attending the Boston College graduation yesterday, and as the Secretary of Transportation stated, be very careful when it comes to social media and some of the things you say and do if you don't want to see it on the front page of a newspaper. And I'd urge police officers that are out there in uniform taking actions they don't want to see, then they better be careful, all right? Now, obviously, there are other methods. There are arbitration hearings and so forth available, civil service hearings and so forth, if in fact somebody acted in a capricious way, okay? We don't do that, and I urge the board to vote in favor of something that is voted on, in fact, more stringent than that on a national and state basis.
I'd just like to add one thing to amplify what the chief is, the point he's trying to make is, the picture of a police officer, for instance, in an honor guard uniform with his family after a parade is totally appropriate. That same person in an honor guard uniform with maybe wearing a baseball cap that advertises alcoholic beverage or something like that is obviously not appropriate. And these would be taken on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, and you have to use discretion, and you have to realize that.
Since you're grabbing the mic, the mic.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the chief, Officer Philman said that these issues would all be taken on a case-by-case basis, meaning that you would be the person who would determine what the standard was of a particular picture, correct?
And it moves throughout the chain. If in fact someone is in disagreement, it can move through a grievance and hearings, through civil service and so forth. Correct. As in any case, what I deem inappropriate is subject to translation by other boards and commissions.
And these policies are, as you said, are an accepted standard.
Absolutely.
Did you have any other issues with that policy, Mrs. Winslow?
No, it's just that one. The rest of them, I'm totally happy with, but...
I would make a motion to accept the policies as presented by the chief and Officer Philman.
Okay, motion made and second. Mike Snyder made the motion. Ellen, second. Any questions?
Chair,
Mr. Holmes?
I recall those pictures, Chief. Seeing them, they were pretty disgusting when I think they created this. And I find it hard to believe that you would discipline an officer, as Officer Philman said, for taking a picture of his family after a parade in his uniform. The pictures I remember seeing had to do with a policeman in a uniform with a woman in different plaids, and there were some others with partial uniforms with a police cruiser in the picture. Clearly they were on duty doing or whatever they were doing. And I think there is a difference here. I don't think it's a gray line either. And I think that's what justified this rule. That was a few years ago, right? I agree. I don't see the Wareham Police Department disciplining an officer for taking a picture of his family. But if we don't have that, the downside is, I believe, if we don't have that policy in place, and one of our officers does take those disgusting pictures, and you call them on it, we got nothing to stand on.
Absolutely correct.
Is that correct?
And remember, as you as a board, and as me as a manager, any decision we make, my decisions are reviewed by my boss, and ultimately you, the Board of Selectmen. And your decisions are viewed by the people. So, no matter what, we are all responsible for our decisions.
Go right up the line. Mr. Baker, do you have any discussion?
No, thank you. As part of this policy, if one of our officers were to be investigated for posting a questionable picture, the chief, whether it's Chief Stanley or 2-3 chiefs from now, can order that person to provide their password to their social media accounts and other personal information. So I understand the bit about the pictures that are totally inappropriate, but I do think that this policy can be read in a way that could become problematic. And I don't want another civil service case that takes 2 years to test it out. I don't want that. I don't understand why we can't take a closer look at this and work on some of my areas of concern. I mean, I don't know what the big deal is. I've never questioned any of these policies before.
Well, I think it was brought up by the chief and by Mr. Snyder. These are national policies. They're what you may call boilerplate. They've been gone over by the state, not only Massachusetts, but other states. And if we want to look at it, he can look at it and come back with us with an amendment if he deems so necessary. But right now, we can vote to pass it, because if you haven't been to accreditation, which Mr. Andrews and I have been to with a couple police officers, it's a good sight, it's a good feeling, because they're from all over the state, and when your town and police officer can get a certification, and when they do the accreditation, I hope every member of this board will be there, because for the amount of towns that were there, there was only a handful, and for the amount of public officials that were there, we were the only ones. So we showed them that we care for our police officers and our manpower. So I would recommend that we do this, and I've signed 2 other policies that they brought before us, and there was one question I had, but all in all, you got 99 and 44% correct. And I think the chief can work on the rest because his word is, he's the policymaker. Even though it isn't written, he can add on policy to correct anything that's out of sight. So we can work on that, and if there isn't any other questions,
I just have one comment, Chairman Cruz, through you to Mrs. Winslow. I don't think that the policy is a license for the chief or any of his designees to just arbitrarily ask for someone's personal password. And I personally feel that if anyone does anything that they don't, or posts anything that they don't necessarily want to be on a billboard, then there wouldn't be an investigation. If there's something that is absolutely questionable, this is really a protection for the officers because they know the boundaries that they have to function within, and it's protection for the town as well, so that we don't have either a lawsuit or a problem with any kind of personnel issue. And I guess I'm just ready to vote on the motion.
okay, all discussion will cease now. We'll take a vote, and like I said earlier, the chief can look at it on his own and make what appropriate decision he needs to make. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? 5-0-0. Abstain or no voice at all is included as a yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Now, any other, well, sorry. You're want to continue till tomorrow?
No, actually,
I need a
Mr. Chair,
motion.
if I could indulge the board for 2 minutes, because this needs to be done today, I need to get this motion on the record.
I'm going to time you.
The board was aware of an appointment on May the 10th to the Director of Social Services. I would make a motion that the board not ratify that appointment.
Motion made and second. Will you state that motion again?
Yeah, my motion is not to ratify this appointment on the grounds, in the charter, clearly states that, I've never, unless I'm totally...
Mr. Ho, do you want to make the motion first?
I did.
Okay. Because
And
I
it was
wasn't clear.
seconded.
Right, I wasn't clear, but now you're stating another...
Oh, I'm sorry, under
Okay.
discussion.
Right. Yeah. State your motion again.
My motion is to not ratify the appointment of the Director of Social Services.
Okay. Yeah, I could just about hear.
Do it again.
Yes, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay. Second again. My motion comes, in the charter, it's clear that when a position is to be filled by the town, these positions need to be advertised. This position was not advertised, at least not that I'm aware of. There was no interview, I'm sorry, there was no interview process. And so based on that, today's the 24th, that's why I need to bring it up today. I have no problem with filling the position, but it needs to be done properly by the charter and by the rules that we've set up for hiring in this town.
Mr. Town Administrator, since you were the one that's in your ballpark.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this was a return of an employee on administrative leave, so it's not a new position. If you look at the job position, it states clearly that it's the Director of the Council on Aging and Social Services. So I brought back the individual from an administrative leave to an existing position that she never left. And that position is one that she's filling in the area of social services. And as you all know, that my administrative assistant, Susan Green, is working at the Council on Aging on Council on Aging issues. So it's a day-to-day matter, in my opinion, and I'm willing to listen to the board, but the individual is coming back to fill a position that she had gone out on administrative leave, and I have brought the board up to speed on that administrative leave. So it's not a new position, respectfully put. Thank you.
Any other discussions? We'll work the same way again. No discussion? Any discussion?
I do. Mr. Chair, through you. Mr. Andrews, if I'm to understand you correctly, we now have 2 people doing the director job?
We have a director of the Council on Aging, and we have a return of an individual who's working on social services. If you look at the job posting of which the individual applied for, followed a process, was appointed to, duly appointed to, she's filling a portion of that job at this particular time. And, Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to, if you would like to go into executive session, I'm happy to talk about the circumstances, but we're walking a very fine line here. Thank you.
If there was any other discussion, we need to take a vote. You had requested 2 minutes, and we have another prior engagement. So,
Could you restate the motion?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, my motion is not to ratify the appointment letter of May 10th by the town administrator to the Director of Social Services. Not to ratify. So a yes would be to reject the letter.
okay, so yes would be to reject. Are we ready to move the question?
I actually, you know, I think that we met here last night, and I'm a little bit surprised that this is coming tonight, 5 minutes before we're going to go into town meeting. I'm not prepared. Clearly, there are some issues here that the town administrator feels are pertinent to the situation, and I'm not prepared to take a vote on this matter.
And I think since it deals with a personnel matter, and the other person not here, I think we need to probably go into executive session on this.
If the matter had come before this body yesterday, Steve, I would have been happy to.
There was no time here, and today's the last day. And quite frankly, Mr. Chairman, it's not a personnel matter. I have not mentioned any employee. All I've mentioned is a job position. That's all I've mentioned. There's no need to discuss an employee here.
Okay, if
My
we want to
issue
go,
is-
if we want to go
is
that
the
way,
position, that's
the
all.
motion's on the floor, let's
Right.
take a vote. All in favor of ratifying it?
Not to ratify.
Not to ratify it.
Right.
And a yes, it'll be,
I vote not to ratify. That's one. 2.
I'm a yes.
all opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
All right?
2. Mike?
2,
Aye.
3, 0.
Thank you. Just wanted to...
Now we may have a motion to continue to tomorrow.
Motion
We don't have any
you
more
think
business.
we're going to get through? Let's adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. We don't have any more business.
Do we have
Just
it?
in case if you need to discuss something tomorrow, at least it'll be open.
It's 3 agendas.
You know what I mean, Steve? In case you have something to come up tomorrow, at least you'll have it.
Yeah, we have a posted meeting,
Okay.
so we can adjourn now.
Continue to tomorrow.
See what happens. Don't continue, because
No.
Okay,
we finished our meeting tonight, and we don't have to come back.
you make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?